Oliver Grant was tired of being invisible. At 35 years old, he lived a quiet and predictable life. He worked as an assistant in a small accounting office, spent weekends playing video games, and rarely did anything adventurous. When friends from high school posted photographs of weddings, children, and travels around the world, Oliver felt like the background character in a story that was never his own. One Saturday night, while scrolling endlessly through social media, he discovered a video of a man showing off a tattoo of a quick response code on his chest. The code, when scanned, opened a website that displayed the man's art gallery. Thousands of comments praised him as creative and original. Oliver stared at the screen for a long time and thought, this is what I need. Something bold, something that makes people notice me. The next morning, he walked into a tattoo parlor with a printed quick response code. The design linked to his personal blog, a page he had created years ago with the grand idea of writing about philosophy and self-improvement. The blog had only 2 posts, but Oliver imagined reviving it and turning it into something meaningful once the tattoo gave him motivation. The tattoo artist, a woman named Carla, studied the design carefully. You do realize this has to be exact, she said. If one square is slightly off, the code might not scan. Oliver nodded eagerly. I understand. I want it on my forearms so people can scan it easily. Carla hesitated but eventually agreed. The buzzing machine pressed against his skin, and Oliver winced as the ink carved the intricate pattern. He imagined a future where strangers at bars would point their phones at his arm and instantly discover his writing. He pictured people calling him innovative, daring, and maybe even brilliant. 2 hours later, Carla wiped down his arm and showed him the finished work. The tattoo looked sharp, detailed, and futuristic. Oliver paid, left the shop, and could hardly wait to test it. At home, he opened his phone's camera and hovered it over the code. Nothing happened. He tried again. The phone beeped but displayed a message. Invalid code. Confused, Oliver downloaded a scanning application. The same result appeared. Error. Cannot read code. His excitement melted into dread. He checked the design against his original printout. To his horror, he noticed the problem. The tattoo was precise, but human skin was not a flat sheet of paper. The curve of his arm stretched the image ever so slightly. A few black squares were not aligned perfectly. The result was permanent failure. Oliver spent the next week trying to convince himself it was not so bad. Yet when he showed the tattoo to his coworkers, they laughed. So you got a barcode to nowhere. One of them joked that is like having a door that leads into a brick wall. At first, Oliver felt crushed. His bold attempt at standing out had turned him into the office clown. People called him Mr. Era Coat and asked if he could link the tattoo to their lunch receipts. Every failed scan became another round of laughter. But over time, something unexpected happened. The story of his useless tattoo spread. Friends introduced him at parties as the guy with the code that does not work. People would gather around, eager to try scanning it themselves. When the inevitable failure appeared on their screens, the group would burst into laughter. Oliver noticed that he was no longer invisible. He was the center of attention, not because of success, but because of a mistake so unusual it became legendary. Months later, a journalist writing about the strangest tattoos people regret contacted him for an interview. The article, complete with photographs of his forearm, went viral. Thousands of comments poured in, some mocking, others strangely supportive. One person wrote, "This is the most honest tattoo ever. Life itself is just one giant error message sometimes." Oliver read that comment again and again. For the first time, he felt a strange sense of pride. His tattoo had not given him fame for his writing or his ideas, but it had given him something else. Connection. People who heard his story remembered him. They laughed with him, not only at him. One night, sitting in a cafe, a stranger asked about the tattoo. Oliver explained the whole story with a smile. The stranger said, "That is actually beautiful. It shows that mistakes can have meaning too." Oliver looked at his arm, the black squares etched forever into his skin. It no longer felt like failure. It felt like truth. The code did not work, but in its brokenness, it had given him exactly what he had always wanted: a story worth telling.